You're an American who's now in charge of a football club, despite possessing very little knowledge of the game. You got a question in there, Trent?
I got a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Offside, you turn it!
I am 0 for 2 in that sentence. This man has a plan. Plan. Plan.
Plan.
Plan.
Not plan.
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 There we go. Hi, everyone. On behalf of the Writers Guild Foundation, welcome to Between the Lines, a virtual discussion with the 2021 Writers Guild Awards nominees for Episodic Comedy. I'm Michael Schneider, senior editor at Variety, and I'm clearly locked in some sort of weird Writers Guild Foundation void here, so don't mind the hair as it kind of goes in and out. It goes up and down, but I'm so excited to have these panelists here to talk all about their episodes. But before I introduce them, let's look at a few clips of the scenes we're going to be discussing today. Why don't we roll them?
I was lost until guess who walked through the door?
What up? What? It's me, Shoo Shoo. In America! How did Shoo Shoo get there?
It was a crazy story.
So, I stayed in China and ended up in the countryside. But I quickly learned that I did not belong there. The work was hard. I did not like manual labor. And there were so many bugs. One day, I got caught in a mudslide and was washed away. Even though I still loved Chairman Mao, I decided that I needed to get out of China. So I swam to Hong Kong, almost getting eaten by sharks along the way. And then I made it to New York. So, that's my update. What about you?
Come.
Shall we perhaps picnic today?
This is Mother. I would not bury her. I could not bear the thought of never seeing her.
She is pretty.
Mother, this is Catherine.
It is my honor.
She was a goddess. Extraordinary. Powerful. No one like her. Strangely, I felt paralyzed whenever she was around. Someone should work out what goes on between a chap and his mother. There'd be money in that.
I suppose so.
All right, that's done.
I have to shower.
It's been a long, long time.
Oh my God, you're fucking psychopath. You're a fucking full fucking taxi driver, fucking psychopath.
You okay in there?
You're fucking De Niro. You're just fucking De Niro in every movie he's fucking ever been.
So we're supposed to meet with Rebecca Welton.
Yeah, that's where I'm taking you.
Oh, look at this guy, one step ahead. Hey, what's your name, by the way?
Me?
Yeah.
No one ever asked my name.
Oh. I mean, whenever you're ready.
Oh, it's Nathan.
Nathan! Oh, I love that name. Hey, love your hot dogs.
Yeah, no, I know.
Oh, good, good. You all got Nathan's hot dogs here?
No.
Okay. I love this kid. Love him.
First of all, Mark, I never meant to be dismissive of you earlier. I think what you have accomplished as a buyer of basketball teams is, I mean, really, God, all those championships.
One, actually.
But it was the best one, right?
I gotta be honest, I don't know what to make of you. And that has me leaning in. I'm gonna make you an offer.
You are? He is.
I see Rise Up helping millions of people. I'm gonna give you exactly what you asked for. $200,000 for 10%.
Barbara, can you do better than that?
No, I'm afraid I can't.
Can you do worse than that?
Yes, I certainly can. I'm out.
Well, then that's it. Bring it home, big boy.
So we have a deal?
Yes, we do, partner.
No, we don't. I am really sorry. I can't accept this deal.
What?
What? Could you believe this?
I'm sorry, we're out.
You should know that I'm asexual.
You are?
I should have told you earlier. I take it you're not?
No.
A little joke, but I am.
How asexual are you?
Completely.
Oh. There's a spectrum.
I know.
All right. Hey, that's some good TV right there. I say, well done, voters of the nominations of the Writers Guild Awards. Congratulations to everyone here for their nominations. Let me introduce to you our panel right now. First up, from Dead to Me, their nominated episode is It's Not You, It's Me, Liz Feldman and Kelly Hutchinson. Liz and Kelly, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Next up, from Grace and Frankie, his nominated episode is The Tank, Alex Kavallierou. Alex, what's up? What, snapping? Yep, absolutely. His nominated episode from Awkwafina is Nora from Queens is Grandma and Chill, Mr. Kyle Lau. Kyle, welcome.
Hey, Kyle.
The pilot to Ted Lasso, the one and only Bill Lawrence. Bill, welcome. From High Maintenance, his episode is Trick, Isaac Oliver. Isaac. And finally, he can't make it, but he's going to make a cameo appearance later in the panel, but also nominated from the great, for the episode, the great Tony McNamara. So welcome, everyone. I know all you do all day long is sit on Zoom in writers' rooms, so why not just do a panel on Zoom as well? We live on Zoom now, so appreciate you all coming out and doing this. So we're going to go through all these nominated episodes, talk a little bit about them, show you the actual script pages. That's one of the benefits of doing this on Zoom, I suppose, is everyone can sort of see it up close and look at these pages in particular. But we're going to start off actually with Dead to Me. It's Not You, It's Me. So Liz and Kelly, take us through the episode. Obviously, one of the interesting things was with James Marsden and sort of having his twin brother be the exact opposite, and what that does to Jen and Judy. And walk me through this episode in particular, and sort of what was sort of the impetus for this.
Well, so what you just saw was essentially the beginning of the episode, and what you didn't see is that the previous night Jen slept with Ben, who is the twin brother of Steve, who she killed at the end of season 1, like you do. And so, she has woken up with this man who has the face of the man that she killed. So, we start from there, and
I do feel like one of the reasons we actually had Jen and Ben maybe get together was just for that scene. We're like, we get to wake up. It's the face of the man she killed. Boom. And we're like, okay, so we'll just do that.
No, obviously we have to do that.
We just love that idea. So
yes.
And obviously you found a way to keep James Marsden around as well.
Oh,
and so I was that always sort of the plan, or sort of how?
No, not at all. We signed James to 1 season because that's what he was available for at the moment, but also because we knew we were killing off his character, with no intention of that character having a twin, because that's almost stupid. So I can't at all say that it was premeditated. It's just that he was such a wonderful actor. We loved working for him. We loved writing for him. And then he wrote me an email at the end when season 1 premiered, saying if there's any way that Steve could survive a head injury and drowning, I'd love to come back. So literally, the same day, Kelly and I were just having lunch, and we were sitting across from each other, and I told her about the email, and at the exact same time, we said,
twins.
And that's how Ben was born, because we just we couldn't. And then we were laughing so hard because of how tropey and dumb it is, that we just sort of took it as a challenge to try to make it as grounded and real and feel like it's just a part of the fabric of the show, without it being just a gimmick.
Yeah. And it definitely ended up being a part of the fabric of the show. The whole idea that he looks like the character that she killed, but also looks like her best friend's, in quotes, ex-paramour. There's so much complication weaved through that relationship between these two women who, are best friends, and yet sort of the source of their most their biggest pain right now, and how you have managed to sort of walk that line with these two actresses who are like the new comic duo. That must be kind of fun to sort of crack in the room and figuring out how do we sort of put these two together, but at the same time pull them apart, then put them back together, pull them apart.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's important for everybody to know that in real life, Kelly and I are best friends. We've known each other since we were teenagers. We were roommates in college. And, we have been through every high and low with each other and have shared similar highs and lows.
Well, you feel each other's love interests, which I think is,
well, this is completely autobiographical, obviously. But so the friendship element comes really naturally to us. And when I was even writing the pilot, I was drawing upon this friendship and others. But so to have each other in the room, that I think is part of why the friendship is at least written to feel real. And then of course those actresses are incredible.
They're amazing. Yeah.
Let's bring up the script page now. Just sort of also get an idea. We're going to be sharing it. So there's in the clip that we showed, there's the juxtaposition also of Jen, with the twin brother, the man who she killed. But then also later on, I don't think we showed this part, but it's in the script. We also see Judy going to the penitentiary to visit her mom, and. Talk about that, the sort of the juxtaposition of real key moments happening to both these characters, and then also introducing Judy's mom to the mix.
I mean, something in season 2 that we talked about a lot was kind of this mother wound for both of the characters. And that was something that we were exploring a lot of. And for Judy, obviously, so much of her codependent pathology comes from her relationship with her mom, so this is kind of her walking into the belly of the beast, while Jen is also experiencing that same kind of trauma, with Ben on the other side.
One thing I wanted to bring up, I love, and this is, I always love in introducing new characters, the description of these characters. And of course, in introducing Judy's mom, using the line, probably Dirty John to fella in her day. I mean, it's just like, it's so perfect. Does it ever frustrate you that the average viewer doesn't get to see those descriptions? Like that you put a lot of work into like describing who this person is. Could you ever put it at the bottom of the screen or?
Well, first of all, Kelly is much better at this than I am.
Sweet,
it's true. Did I? Oh, well, I would say for the most part, Kelly is much better at that than I am. I often complain in the writer's room that I hate writing stage directions. It would be all dialogue if it was up to me. But every once in a while, when you, especially when we've been at this point talking about this character for so long, we can't wait to bring her to life. We can't wait to sort of reveal her to the audience. We felt like it was really important to really specify as much as possible and three-dimensionalize her in this description so that casting would have a really, clear idea of who we were looking for.
Excellent. Well, let's now move on to Kyle, and Awkwafina is Nora from Queens. And this particular episode, which is sort of an interesting flashback episode. Tell us a little bit about Grandma and Chill and how the idea came about to do this sort of special episode.
Yeah, totally. We knew from the jump that we wanted to do something with Grandma's backstory because she obviously as a character is just so silly and crazy. A crass Asian grandma is just interesting to everybody. And so we knew we wanted to do something there. When it came down to it, we kind of were all talking and, as far as like levels of Asian American immigrant stories and Asian American culture, we're like, well, we haven't really seen a K-drama. And so we're like, what if we just did a flashback K-drama, all K-drama style? I watched too much. I've never watched one before writing this episode. I started watching some, and if you haven't, please watch them because they're just the most overdramatic things. And there's so many buses running into weddings. There's so many people with amnesia. They're hilarious to watch and also heart-wrenching. So I highly recommend. But after watching that and realizing, oh, there's a big community here for K-drama, we should just do it. Let's just full send, have her backstory be a K-drama, and that kind of took off from there.
And how much what does that require in terms of writing sort of like in that style? Is it a huge departure in terms of the stage direction and how you sort of like come up with the beats, or how do you sort of import a Korean drama into a comedy? Right.
It's funny you mention that because I do think the traditional breaking of story of like these act breaks, these other things, our plot points were just like the craziest things. That was like kind of our turning points were just like, okay, a piano falls on Harry Shum Jr. Like, okay, that's what's happening at the end of Act 2, and we built it around that. And as far as just writing, I mean, it was super fun for me because it was so stylized and over the top. You could be so over the top and so heightened, and everything was dripping with sarcasm. Everything was meta in that sense. And so for me, it was a blast because you could really do anything. It was there's no like rules, I guess.
And you had a ton of cool guest stars as well. So were you writing to any of them in mind, or what was the process in sort of figuring out the kind of performer that you wanted to play young grandma and all that?
Yeah. Well, I have to obviously give a shout out to Nora Awkwafina, who is kind of like the godmother of Asian actors. And she basically said, let's just dream big. Whoever we want to get for these roles, we can pursue. And so, Jamie, Simu, and Harry, I think, did a fantastic job, and they truly were, some of our top picks of like, this is who we want. Like, imagine Simu shirtless, having garbage juice drip on him. Like that was literally what I wrote, I think, and we were able to, work it out. And I think it is all the better for that.
Yeah. That's you managed to get a shirtless Simu in there. So
yeah.
I know some of your viewers. Thank you for that. Let's bring the script out right now, actually, and take a look. Yeah. So yeah. In particular, again, just having to sort of write, shadow puppet theater, fantasy sequence. This definitely, you had some fun with this.
Yeah.
Anything in particular you want to sort of highlight here?
I think so. This backstory is a funny story in itself. One of the co-creators, Teresa, her mom has a friend who Skyped into the room, and because she was on the East Coast, and we just talked to her about her immigration story, and so like all this shoo stuff is actually based on reality. This one woman literally was in China for the Communist Party and liked Mao and did the whole thing and got swept up in a mudslide and truly went to another village and had all this crazy stuff happen to her. And then from that story, we kind of just unlocked a lot of, our room is very diverse and a lot of the writers have Asian heritage, and we just kind of talked about our family's immigration story. And my family, I have one uncle who literally swam across parts of the Pacific to get to Hong Kong to be safe. And that's we brought up a map just to see is this even possible? Can you swim in the Pacific at all? And we found a small channel that he might have done it at. And so it's all seems crazy, and it is crazy, but it's all based in reality. So.
Very cool. Very ambitious episode and nominated at the WGA. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Now moving on to Mr. Bill Lawrence. I know you and Jason, have been asked a lot over the past year to explain how a series of NBC Sports promos turned into the show that we know and love, and Ted Lasso. But were there any particular sort of eureka moments early on with you and Jason and the writers in sort of taking that character where you're like, yeah, this is who Ted Lasso is. He is just a someone who's got an optimism to him that is infectious and sees the good in people. And what was the process like in sort of fleshing out this character?
Is something that Liz and Kelly actually said. It's really interesting. By the way, I'm still reeling because you guys saw that Apple ran a 5-minute commercial for Ted Lasso at the beginning of this, right?
Yeah, we noticed. Yeah.
I want to thank Apple and then apologize to my friends. Because in my head I was being does everybody get a commercial now? All right. That's weird, but it's also cool. Congratulations, everyone. By the way, your shows are all awesome. It was really interesting. So it was what Liz and Kelly were saying was we liked because the hard thing about selling this show is people had seen those promotional, and they're kind of cool SNL sketches to promote the Premier League. It's not like they're a Midas muffler commercial or something. They're really funny, and I remember seeing them as a comedy writer. And when Jason came to me, he said, the trick is those guys think we're going to do this loud, yelly, screamy coach, but I want to do something like Scrubs or The Office has kind of an underbelly of a sentimentality. And he said, I want to, what if we did our own sports movie? And we came up with the idea together to put out all those tropes, the evil, villainous female owner, the quiet underdog kid, and the goal, it's scary for me to watch the pilot because the goal was for everybody to think they knew exactly what the show was. And then hopefully to surprise them that this guy isn't a white knight. He's just a good guy. And the other people, when they realize he's not an asshole, they have to look at themselves and, start their own journeys, hopefully towards being better folk. And it was mostly weird, lame, therapeutic stuff for us because as a writing staff, we didn't think anybody would ever watch it. We used to all joke about it I love snarky comedy. I can watch Veep till the end of time. It's one of the best written shows. And if you described it, it's like, hey, everybody's trying to be more horrible to each other than the other person. And for us to actually write a show that was inherently about, optimism and hopefulness and kindness and forgiveness and stuff was, during this kind of constant shit show that I'm sure everybody has been dealing with, it was super refreshing. So at least we started from there going, hey, even if no one ever watches this show, it's come out of it feeling like it was kind of a good experience, and it bled into the show a little bit, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. And you couldn't have predicted the timing, obviously, of it's sort of where the world is right now, and it's the kind of show that people.
Oh, we're so lucky this stuff all happened. What if I really said that, by the way?
Shout out to COVID.
It's just so hard. By the way, I will tell you that it's so weird to be at a time, everybody is with TV. And the one thing I will say is that even before this constant dumpster fire, the one thing that I was aware of, especially, having kids and on social media and stuff, that dialogue out there is so toxic, man. And so just cynically dark. I always say I was the type of person that if I had met Ted Lasso in real life, I would have been like, oh, a week from now, this guy will take his mask off and be a jerk just like everybody else, and so I think that's kind of where the show started.
Yeah, and did you, I'm sure there's a lot of people who, when they first started watching, that was their fear, was that it would be revealed that, Ted Lasso has some sort of deep, dark, negative secret that, sort of would turn that show into a darker show. And you avoided that.
Well, I mean, I think everybody has, it's so interesting because one of the cool things about, for me, you've seen other people's shows, I mean, it's very obvious, but everybody has pathos underneath, especially all the writers here and that's the stuff that hooks me. I mean, I'll still, watch a show that people are just launching jokes at each other, especially, I mean, I remember 30 Rock, I couldn't even keep up, they're so funny. You'd have to go back and watch them just to catch some of them. But I personally have watched the shows that we're talking about here because they, even no matter how ludicrous they get, they have an undercurrent of giving a crap about the characters and about people kind of wrestle.
Let's, did Bill freeze? Did we? Well, let's go to the Bill's script right now. And it's where we we meet Nate the Great for the first time. And this is a good example of sort of, introducing these characters and how Ted reacts to Nathan, to the team owner, Rebecca. Again, sort of a refreshing, early on take of, you see where this show is going. So,
look, the coolest thing for me seeing stuff, and I'll toot Jason's horn a little bit, is not a lot of people know. I mean, he's a great actor, but he was a writer first on SNL, and he's a really talented one. And one of the things that we did on this show, it's fun to look at this again, was it's really important to him that every character goes on a journey. And we had a start, middle, and end of every character's journey. And like even in the pilot script, the show starts not with Jason Sudeikis, who's the lead supposedly, but starts with Hannah Waddingham as the female lead, and kind of her trip. But this scene that you're showing us was the start of Nathan's journey, which was as a guy that starts the year saying, no one ever asked my name. He's a kit man on a Premier League team and overlooked. And ends the year, so it's a spoiler, but I'll live with the owner of the team knowing his name, and catapulting him onto the next section of his life. And so I really liked, the idea, because I had not written a ton of streaming shows. I was a dinosaur back from those days where you do 58 episodes of TV a year or whatever it was. And to actually start someone's arc in the pilot and then deliver it with a little kind of sprinkled out over the year and do a beginning, middle, and end that way was really fun to write. And so, knowing what we're writing this year to see where it began is kind of fun.
Yeah.
That character. And that actor is fantastic. Nick Mohammed, he's a really talented guy and created his own show with David Schwimmer that's on the Peacock, and, is a writer, creator himself as well.
Excellent. Well, let's now move on to Grace and Frankie. So, Alex, tell us a little bit about the tank and the idea of putting these women on Shark Tank.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you want me to set up the episode with the?
Yeah. Set up sort of the motivation for this episode.
Oh yeah. Well, what we didn't see previously in that episode is Grace's husband has asked her that she can't pitch to Mark Cuban, so she can sell to anyone on Shark Tank except Mark. And she doesn't tell Frankie this, so she goes in there trying to avoid selling to Mark Cuban, and that's the basic setup.
Mm-hmm. And so we saw the episode. Let's look at the script, because obviously I'm curious. Whenever you do sort of a show within a show, especially when you have real life people guest starring, and you're giving them dialogue. Talk about that process. How do you work with them and sort of figuring out the dialogue, knowing what they can and can't do, knowing what they are willing to say and not say? What is that process like?
Yeah, we had to be careful on that. We kind of watched a lot of footage of Shark Tank to see, kind of try and get their natural cadence, trying to get the kind of things that they usually say. And we didn't want to give them too much, so we were kind of conscious of that. Although, you know, they're kind of all successful people, so they we assumed that they would try hard and practice, and you know, and they're on TV a lot, so they have some TV confidence. But yeah, they did a great job actually. They'd all rehearsed a lot and were keen to try and, you know, do their best.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. They're all kind of hams, especially Cuban. And as I can see here, you gave Cuban quite a bit of dialogue.
Yeah, well, he was integral to like the whole episode, really. You know, it was kind of like very early on before, you know, very early on in breaking the whole season, we had this kind of arc that Grace wasn't able to sell to Mark Cuban. So we kind of like, you know, early on, we're like fighting to try and get this Shark Tank thing made, because we thought a lot of episodes even prior to this was setting up this kind of whole storyline that Mark is the only one she can't sell to.
Mm-hmm. Did what kind of notes did he have? Did he have many notes, or was there anything that was off limits, or he wanted to change?
No, he didn't actually. He was very confident, and you know, kind of he'd clearly done his homework, but no, he didn't. He just kind of he was excited. They all were. They were all good sports and pretty professional and ready to go.
That's cool. And yeah, he was willing to poke a little fun at himself, noting that he's only had one championship.
Yeah.
What's it like clearing it with the producers and you know, the company that produces Shark Tank? Is that much of an issue too? Is there a process in you know, clearing the script with them, or is that fairly easy?
Well, that's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but there was a relationship that one of our writers had with someone at Sony that kind of helped to kind of facilitate that. But then there's a lot of producers behind the scenes kind of getting that done. And again, very early on, before we wrote the episode, we sort of broke this story roughly pretty early on. Even though it kind of comes late in the season, we'd already broken the story really early, so that we pitched the story to them, and we went through quite a few steps. And honestly, along the way, they never really, every time they said, yeah, fine, they were excited to do it. So they didn't have any notes or anything. They were just kind of good sports.
And how familiar were Jane and Lily with Shark Tank? Had they watched it? Did they know sort of you know, what the game was?
They did, yeah. They knew they did, and they were excited to do it too. And they were great too, because we only had a couple hours to do the whole thing on the, you know, and usually we take quite a while to shoot, you know, because we're a single camera show. And we had to do something like 8 minutes of the whole show, of the whole episode in a couple hours. So it was kind of like quite quick and required everyone to be ready, you know, on their toes.
All right, and now moving on to High Maintenance, the episode Trick. So Isaac, set up sort of the return of Evan, the asexual magician.
Yes, a beloved recurring character on High Maintenance. High Maintenance is an anthology show. Each episode is standalone, and there are 2 to 3 stories in each episode. And so in the room, we never quite know which ones we're going to get and which are going to get paired with which. And I was very fortunate with this because I love that Evan character. And for 3 seasons, I was continually pitching, trying to get stories for him. Avery Monson, the actor, is so wonderful. And finally, this stuck. I worked with an intimacy coordinator on another show, and I was so fascinated by that job and just started kind of ideating around what happens when an asexual becomes romantically involved with a woman who is an intimacy coordinator, and her whole life and her whole profession is sort of understanding and respecting people's boundaries and being, you know, ethical and humane, and but still wants to get hers at the end of the day, So I was very excited. The whole episode, really, both stories speak to each other. It's about intimacy. The whole episode is about intimacy, and it's about how intimacy really rarely is an organic thing that happens between people. It really is something that actually has to be coordinated and negotiated and talked about, and often traded for and commodified. Intimacy is a transaction. The first story is something that happened to me, which was a young guy hires an escort, and the escort spends the entire session freaking out about how they're the same age, and that it's so weird that he would be hired. And it's very kind of you all to think that maybe I was the escort, but I really was not. Can't give it away. But we spent the whole hour with me essentially like taking care of him and like reassuring him and making sure he still wanted to do it. It was very strange. And so that paired nicely, we thought, with this second larger story of, a different kind of an intimacy that is really negotiated between someone with a queer identity. And asexuality is a queer identity. It's an identity that is really misunderstood. And someone who has radical empathy as a person and as her job, and to see, I don't know, if they can make it.
Let's take a look at the script real quick, because also obviously curious in sort of the research process in making sure that both in characterizing someone who's asexual, but also writing about someone who's an intimacy coordinator. What sort of research went into getting that right?
Tons. I spent a lot of time on asexual message boards. They are a very digital community and very literate and lots of self-expression on those boards. So I really immersed myself in that, and lots of discussion about sort of the spectrum of asexuality into aromanticism and all of the sort of varying identities within that spectrum. And then we worked with Alicia Rodas, who runs Intimacy Directors International, and she did her actual job on the first half of the episode, which had a sex scene, and then she was a consultant helping us portray someone who does exactly what she did. It was very sort of through the looking glass for her, but it was fun. I really, I think it's an incredible job, and I loved learning about it, and really sought to portray it as best I could.
Yeah, and obviously reading this part of the script, for example, I mean, you're also educating your viewers to some degree. I mean, there is. Well,
this is essentially a coming out scene. And it really is, I was really excited about portraying a moment where the stakes could not be higher for either of them. I mean, in theory, I think he is someone who is not aromantic. He's asexual, but he has romantic longings. And I think he's attempted this a few times in the past, and it's gone really badly. And maybe he shouldn't have sort of invited her back to his apartment without telling her first, but he knew if he told her before that, she wouldn't sit with him and hang out with him. And so he's taking his shot here. He sees an opening. And for me, just coming out as a gay person early in my life, I remember how intense and scary that was. And so that was easy to imbue this scene with. But also her, I mean, it's really, she's nervous because this is the moment when sex is about to happen. She's in the apartment, they've smoked weed, they're doing a puzzle. What's sexier than that? So, she's excited because that's about to happen. And then she's told it's not going to happen. And yet she's in this conundrum of, oh my God, I'm supposed to be this incredibly empathic, educated person who accepts people where they're at, and she has a background in trauma therapy, and she's gone to school for all of this, and sexual identities and sexual trauma, et cetera, et cetera. Not that asexuality is trauma, but so I just loved this sort of moment where it's incredibly high stakes between both of them, and they're both being very intentional with what they're saying. And the actors portrayed that beautifully, of just the pauses, and they're really like, they're putting their sentences together like jigsaw puzzle pieces, actually. Like, it's just very, I don't know. It was a joy to write and work on that scene, especially.
We're going to be taking questions in a few minutes, so definitely throw through your Q&As in the Q&A. But before we do that, we do have Tony McNamara's pre-recording talking a little bit about The Great. So why don't we roll that right now?
Well, hi everybody. I'm Tony McNamara, and from not very sunny London. Unfortunately, I can't be live because it's just too late for me. In the pilot of The Great, I guess the main thing was bringing Catherine to Russia, and her having this very idealistic view of what marriage was going to be and the man she was going to marry. And then slowly through the pilot, she starts to get a sense of who she's actually married to. And by the end of the pilot, sort of completely the scales have fallen from her eyes, and she's like, I need to kill this guy. So it was quite a lot in 49 minutes or whatever for her to do, but thankfully I have a great actress who did it. And this particular scene we've entitled Mother is sort of like 15 minutes into the episode. She's had a terrible first wedding night, but one of the things about her character is she has irrepressible optimism. So she's gone to breakfast the next day and tried to win him over, and she's won him over enough that he's prepared to introduce her to his mother. And it was also Nick Holt who plays Peter. It was I suppose in the first third of the script, the idea was you see there's another element to this guy. He's not just a maniac. I mean, he is just a maniac, but the idea of the scene was to show you how hard she's trying, and that you see her smarts in that she's trying to work this guy out, and also that his version of letting someone into his psychology and the fact he keeps his mother in a case and has had her mummified was all sort of the middle of the episode. This sort of character, it's one of her last gasps of like, how do I work with what I've got? So that was sort of how I thought about it. And then I just wanted it to be a quick, really funny scene, which also, because she's quite empathetic, that she sort of felt for him that he loved his mother so much, but it was also clear to the audience he loves his mother a little too much. So it all had to do quite a lot, quite quickly, I guess. This is the first time in the episode that Peter, like Nick Holt's character, just before this at the breakfast, he kind of suddenly is like, I might be interested in this person as a person, because maybe she brings something unusual. So he has decided to open himself up to her a little bit. So I sort of wanted the audience to see that too, that there was a weird mother issue going on at the root of this character that becomes important throughout the season. And that I think, and to see Catherine trying, I think it was like important that she'd had a horrible first night, and to show in a real character sense that even when she's faced with just the idiocy of this guy who's mummified his mother, that she does kind of try. She does kind of say, she's pretty, even though she's like a mummified corpse. I'll sign off because I'm got to go into exciting lockdown London and jog home, which is all we're allowed to do. So thank you very much. Bye.
And there we go.
I want to go back and tape mine. I want to go back and tape mine and send it in.
Yeah,
that was cool.
All right, we'll have a do-over. We'll meet back tomorrow night.
Yeah, do-overs for everybody. Come on.
Meet back tomorrow. It's sad that Tony's not here because I also want to ask him about the scene with all the severed heads at dinner. But that's a story for another day. Well, we have a bunch of questions that are coming our way, but I did want to start by sort of, seeing how everyone's doing as we enter year 2 of this world that we're living in now. Before we went live, we were talking a little bit about the adjustment of doing Zoom writers' rooms and how that's just impacting your work and having to adjust to this. Liz, have you adjusted to this? Do you feel like you have at least sort of a routine now with the way things operate? How much do you hate this, and how much are you looking forward to getting back to good old-fashioned writers' rooms and seeing people in person again?
I mean, we've been back in our room for a while.
Is that what they call them, Liz? There's rooms?
That's what I call it. You're welcome to use it. You can use it.
By the way, I'm going to steal that for Variety. Hashtag room. I will give you credit, Liz, but
yeah, just a little LFTM.
Yeah,
and you can do it. But so to be honest, when we first started back, I was just so happy to be working and to just grateful to be able to spend time, even if it's virtually, with Kelly and our other writers, that it was just like a nice change of pace. But a few months now into that, you can't help but just miss the camaraderie of being all together in a room. There's just no substitution for it. And this, approximates it, but it's just not the same, especially in a comedy room, because comedy is energetic. It is something that you feel. It is something that you share. And it is often felt and shared, not even with words. It's somebody can pitch something, and then that feeling that goes through the room when it's a good idea, even though as the showrunner, I'm often like, oh God, we can't do that, which usually means that we will do that. But I just miss that energy. And, very much look forward to being back in a room, physically with everyone. And, not just in work, but also in life, and being able to just, be human beings who are allowed to touch each other and hug and things like that. But at the same time, I think we're really lucky that we are able to do the work like this. It is possible. Like we have, written season 3 in this way. And thank God, because I know so many people can't work like this and are not as fortunate. So I'm grateful that it's a possibility, but I'm very much looking forward to being back physically together.
How about the rest of you? Have you sort of found it difficult to write in this environment? Is it more peaceful? Is it more, do you like the isolation, or are there any upsides to sort of?
You like the isolation? By the way, anybody that claims to enjoy sitting by themselves and writing something by themselves is a sociopath, first of all.
Yeah, they're lying.
Yeah, it's you're lying. It's fun to have written something and go, hey, I'm done with this, but actually doing it I like to think that at least part of the reason that people end up in TV writing as opposed to all the other things is that they love that kind of sense of community. And for me, you would not believe this, Mike, but this is a highlight of my, just knowing that I was going to get to be with like 6 other faces and be like, hey, going to try to make a couple of jokes, going to try to say hi to Liz because she's the one I know already.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, what's up? I was very, very excited, man. So other than that, I'll just say ditto to Liz, though, because the answer was so good, just because trying to remember how kind of grateful you are to have a gig, when I think everybody is 1 degree separated from someone that's doing nothing right now because of the way the world is.
Yeah. Well, that leads to one of the questions we have from one of our viewers from Kelsey. Has the dumpster fire of world events this past year impacted the stories you choose to write now? And if and so, what ways? Even on your returning shows, you can't help, I'm sure, but sort of have that in your mind. And how does that impact your writing as you're working on new seasons? So anyone can take this. Kyle or Isaac, let's hear from you guys.
Sure, I'll take it. I'll take the sword. I think honestly, to like the Ted Lasso of it all, I think it, for me at least, in the rooms that I'm in, it's about the joy now. And realizing, everyone is dealing with this crazy stuff, and what have we leaned on when we are in these crazy times? TV, comedies, especially, to kind of lift us up out of these moments. And So I think as a comedy writer, I feel empowered to let's bring joy into the world. And it kind of reminds me and to not be so cynical and to be like, hey, we are doing something good. We're not nurses and doctors saving lives, of course, but we're doing a little bit of something to make people.
Pal told me that he had saved lives before this thing started, but he said he wasn't going to say it on the panel.
But I had to tell you.
How about you, Isaac? How does this sort of impact what you want to write about and sort of your process this year?
I mean, my process was already pretty non-productive. I didn't think writing could get any lonelier, and then 2020 was like to hold my beer. But it's been really hard. It's been really hard. Last year, I have to admit, was kind of a wash for me, and I just kind of had to think, okay, like I'm gonna tap out for a while, and I'm gonna just like eat 3 meals a day and try and sleep, and then hopefully stories will come. And now this year, that has slowly changed. I'm very shame motivated, and the sort of the air is thick with just shame in my apartment, and so I am now starting to work on things. But it is interesting. I mean, it just the whole your whole mindset has just completely changed, and you think, oh goodness, am I just going to be writing period pieces in 2019 because I don't know how to sort of tackle this, or and it still feels like we're in the middle of it. So I have such admiration for any writers who are tackling this right now. A, I think we need it, but also B, who knows of it all is really bewildering to me. So I'm trying to focus on sort of small stories, and which is nice because that's what High Maintenance was, sort of small, gentle, acts of kindness or surprising, funny or poignant things. And so I'm trying to sort of locate those in my own sort of inspiration seeking right now too. Yeah.
Isaac, I know you talked about shame, but you do have the best backdrop. At least you have like the whole literary. I mean, looks like you're spending your time wisely.
I'm trying. Well, it's that and leaning on walls. So it's sorry. I also was really looking forward to this tonight. I haven't buttoned the shirt in a month.
I was to say, I got a collar on, man.
I know. I'm at a ball.
I missed the memo.
I'm stealing Zroom and I'm stealing Shame Motivated so far from this. By the way, without a doubt.
But who here is not actually wearing pants? That's the other question on Zoom. But
not pants that go with the rest of this outfit.
There we go.
I am actually wearing a hard pant and not a soft pant. So
Kelly Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Okay, Hutch, doing it better.
Doing it better.
Hard pant.
But it brings up another interesting point of how much do we want to include COVID and sort of the world that we live in right now in stories? How much do you want to see people wearing masks, and how much do you sort of just avoid that? Maybe either go in the future or sort of set your projects in an alternate world where COVID didn't happen. Alex, is that something you think about? Like, how much do we incorporate the world we now live in stories for the next couple of years?
Well, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because stories on TV have a backlog anyway. They take at least a year or two to make. So by the time this thing comes out, we have no idea what the landscape's going to look like. And it might date it really badly. Anyone sees masks anywhere says, "Oh, that happened then," and I don't know how in touch we're going to be with it. So it's kind of a really hard question. My guess is we try to ignore it, because anytime you see it, I don't think anyone's going to look upon it and think, "Oh yeah, that was great. I remember when that happened." It's going to be just looked upon as like a terrible thing that we all had to get through, and we're happy it's over. So, my guess is to avoid it, is to pretend like it didn't happen almost. Unless you're doing a hard-hitting drama.
Yeah. Kelly, what's your feeling on that? As you guys have been writing a new season, sort of it could take place at any time. So you sort of.
I mean, I feel lucky because when we first started writing it, I remember talking about it with Liz, and she's like, "No, it's not happening in the season." I was like, "Okay." And so then it was just a great, I mean, even though Zoom isn't the best, like just having that place to escape to every day, which is, still full of murder and mayhem and sadness in its own right, but at least it's an imaginary world that we can kind of go into for a bit, has been a huge saving grace for me in this time, for sure. And feels familiar and comforting, in the way that when you watch your favorite shows, you're like, oh, I love this. I don't have to stress so hard for this minute,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will add that the reason why it was such a hard no was, to what Alex was saying is that, I think my guess was people are not watching Dead to Me, to experience like a ripped from the headlines, kind of vibe. I don't think if you saw Jen and Judy in masks, you go, this is going to be funny. Like I feel like it's like, I just was like, you know what? It's a world that is really close to ours, but it doesn't have to be this exact moment in time. I like, the show to feel as evergreen as possible, that if you watch it in 5 years, or if you watched it 5 years ago, you would get what was going on. You don't need to be clued in, to what's happening, in the world. It's really what's happening with these characters. And just, I think our own fatigue of living through COVID just made it so that we weren't interested in telling those stories. And also we don't know when it's going to, be on, and you certainly don't want to feel like you're telling yesterday's stories.
Yeah. Yeah. And Bill, I sort of assume the same thing with season 2 of Ted Lasso.
Look, whether it's times of war, depression, or whatever, escapist entertainment has such huge value for people. The thing we said, we had to talk to the Premier League and stuff, and they actually said, hey, we might not be having crowds back in and all. And I said, Jason and I were talking, if you said the second season of Ted Lasso comes out in August and there's still, wall-to-wall masks and the world hasn't changed any, there's gonna be much bigger problems, than with people wanting us to portray the crowds of a sporting event realistically. I think there'll be even more of a need for pure, don't get me wrong, there's some great narratives out there where people kind of addressing the emotional turmoil of living through this, but we're an escapist, hopefully feel good show. And I feel like if that were the case, people would need even more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of questions about writing tips, which I think would be a whole other great panel. So I don't think we have time to kind of go deep into how do you write a character. But I do wonder if all of you, again, in sort of, writing in under different circumstances this year, if you've picked up a new sort of writing habit or a new sort of schedule or ritual over the past year or two that you've incorporated into your writing style or your writing environment. Has anyone sort of brought in something new that maybe share with the group, a new hack, a new sort of a way of handling things that
I'll tell you, look, I have no hack. I'll tell you something Ted said to Kip recently, because the one thing this has done for me is, I don't know for you guys, it's eliminated like 80% of my excuses to not get writing done, which is maddening because, when you have places to go and I got to go to the kids thing at school, and so many things that I could use to procrastinate were taken away from me, that I found that very painful as a writer. And so I actually said, I still believe I said to a kid the other day that was asking, and I said that if you actually find the wherewithal to complete something, beginning, middle, and end, and finish and polish it, you're still immediately, in my book, ahead of 50% of the people that call themselves writers. And so if you can, so to me, that's more obvious than ever right now, simply because I find myself in the shame thing that I'm stealing, of not having the same reasons to not write that I used to kind of lean on every day.
Yeah.
You have to get really creative when it comes to procrastinating.
Oh my God. Yeah. Right. You have to do panels.
I think one hack that I picked up though. Sorry.
Yeah, Isaac, go for it.
Go.
No, I was going to say, just busy yourself with panic attacks. They take up a lot of time, and you don't have to write.
Sure.
I found they're great procrastination.
Oh, Isaac. I think we all just want to hug you. Okay.
My vibe.
As we head to the final moments, I mean, one thing, and I've been writing about Bill especially, not to age myself, but I've been writing about you for a moment, and for all of you. But this does seem like such a glory time for the opportunity to do unique shows like Dead to Me, like Ted Lasso, like all your shows. It's how would you for folks watching who have unique ideas, who feel like maybe there's opportunities now that there weren't before. What is your one piece of advice, or what is your feeling about like the best way now to get your sort of unique idea out there? Liz?
I would say find the place inside of you that is least comfortable. Find the thing inside that you like really feel like you wish that you could talk about, but it's shameful or it's embarrassing or you feel vulnerable, and lean into that and write that. And doing that is essentially telling a story that nobody else can tell. That's you really telling your truth, your hidden thing. And you'd be surprised, even though it would be uncomfortable to do that, how it can end up connecting with other people.
Excellent. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Actually, that's a great thing. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to be obsessed with my head continuously. Look, I have no head.
So creepy, Michael.
I apologize. Thank you, Liz, Kelly, Kyle, Bill, Alex, Isaac. Congratulations. Good luck with the WGA Awards, and best to all of you. Stay safe, and we'll see y'all soon.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thanks.
Thank
you.
At Writer Fits.
I'm gonna go watch some K-drama, Kyle.